consent that I speak on my amendment and ask that the time not be counted, changed from either side.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few days ago, I introduced an amendment that would eliminate the essential air service, which is at least authorized in this bill about $200 million. I had no idea that it would approach the end of Western civilization as we know it if we eliminated this obviously outdated and unnecessary $200 million of the taxpayers' money. I am reminded, to paraphrase a comment made once by President Ronald Reagan, who said, "The closest thing to eternal life here on earth is a government program." There is nothing that illustrates that point more than the Essential Air Service program. I would like to ask unanimous consent that three letters be included in the record. One is from Freedom Works, the other is from the National Taxpayers Union, and the other is from the Citizens Against Government Waste. I would ask that they be included in the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Freedom Works says the ESA is a prime example of wasteful spending. A graph produced by the FAA shows that 99.95% of all Americans live within 120 miles of a major public airport. The taxpayer should not be forced to subsidize rural airports with too little demand. I urge you to repeal the EAS to save taxpayers $1 billion over the next 5 years. And National Taxpayers Union cites the cities of Macon and Athens, Georgia, both less than 90-minute drive from Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International Airport. Despite this, the U.S. Department of Transportation subsidized 26 flights per week to and from each city at a clip of $464 per passenger for Macon, $135 for Athens. And then, of course, the government's Citizens Against Government Waste points out that Congress cannot continue on a spending rampage while ignoring the nation's balance sheets. Mr. President, probably the loudest complaints have been from the state of Alaska, a state I love and enjoy. There's a great article that appeared in an Alaska newspaper, and it's called "Self-Sustainability, Is It Time for Alaska to Grow Up?" Among other things that I didn't know about was while the nation faces a $14 trillion fiscal hole and Congress is looking to tighten its belt, it's inevitable that Alaska is going to feel some of the pain. But the interesting thing is that the state of Alaska, and he goes on to state, had $12 billion in reserves and another $40 billion banked away in the permanent fund. Wow. I don't know of another state in the union that is that well off. He goes on to say, it's written by Andrew Halcrow, "We Alaskans fancy ourselves as rugged individualists who are quick to eschew the long arm of the federal government and Big Brother. However, our actions sometimes don't match our rhetoric." And what about the amendment? He goes on to eliminate essential air service subsidies in small rural communities throughout Alaska. Currently, the feds subsidize air service to more than 44 communities to the tune of $12 million per year. And the author goes on to say, is it really the federal government's role to subsidize air service to Rampart, a community with 15 people? Interesting question. He goes on to say, we've known this day was coming, but have done little to prepare our communities for it. We have continued to live in a subsidized world where one of the biggest issues so far this legislative session has been a debate over suspending Alaska's measly gas tax. This week, Alaska Senator Mark Begich in response to the announced ban on earmarks, stated, quote, "I've said many times, Alaska is a young state with many needs, and we deserve our fair share of federal funding to develop our resources and our infrastructure." The author goes on to say, "While I would absolutely agree that federal policies have restricted Alaska's ability to develop its vast resources, the young state argument has been used for decades to justify growing demands on the federal budget for things like the Denali Commission and earmarks for controversial bridges. This year, Alaska turns 52, so arguably we're not kids anymore. Is it time for us to grow up? Is it time for all of us to grow up and eliminate these federal programs that cost billions of dollars of the taxpayers' money, which originally may have, and I emphasize may have, in 1978 when we deregulated the airlines, have a legitimate reason? Obviously, it doesn't anymore. So I look forward to the fact that our conservative organizations are all judging these as a key vote. And I would also point out to my colleagues, if we're serious about cutting spending and going about making tough decisions, this is an easy decision. And if we vote against my amendment, if the majority votes against my amendment to eliminate essential air service, the message to the American people as of November 2nd is we aren't serious. We aren't serious. Because if we can't eliminate a program like this, how can we make the really tough decisions that are coming? The yeas and nays have been ordered. I hope that we will have a vote as soon as reasonably possible, and look forward to the continued debate on this issue, which seems to have created quite a large degree of controversy throughout the country. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Under the previous order, there will be 20 minutes of debate equally divided prior to a vote in relation to